Hello and welcome to the session about SAP Data Hub and its role in the context of the intelligent enterprise. My name is Andreas Wesselmann. I'm based out of Walldorf. I'm responsible for a set of development groups in the area of data management and big data. What I would like to do within the roughly next 20 minutes is to, on the one half, give you some background, which means quickly motivate what we see as typical customer problems today and what role then the SAP Data Hub plays there, can help out, so that you have some background information. And then second half of the presentation, essentially, I would like to give a demo that shows you really how you can connect the different parts of different applications. So in that sense, similar to the keynote, but a different scenario, a quick run through, so just that you get a feeling what you can do with the Data Hub. Okay, so let's get going. I think the motivation can be done very, very quickly. So the typical situation you are certainly all aware of is that you have data flying all around. So you never can control it in one system. You do not even control it in the IT department. It's happening outside. There are data stores coming around, then new data is coming in, be it via sensors, and essentially you do not even know where all data is, not even to talk about to get value out of this data and to automate processes. And these days it's getting a little worse because then you are asked, okay, isn't there some place where you store some personal data? So you get these regulations in and you are responsible for that. So what essentially you see is that there is an increasing complexity, an increasing amount of data and the variety of data. And what you need is one holistic solution that really helps you to get an overview, to get also a cross-system metadata overview, and to create data flows and pipelines, is how we call it, across the system environment. Ideally as easy as possible, and that you can then automate and augment with new innovations like artificial intelligence, machine learning capabilities. So that's the challenge, and as you might guess, at the end of the day, it's nice if you have local optimized solutions, but what you really would like to do is to connect these data insights to your existing business processes, either to automate them or to make them more intelligent because you trained a machine learning model, because at the end, only if the things come together and you have a holistic data management solution, then you really can get value out. And that was the motivation why we created a solution called the SAP Data Hub. The solution is out for 1 year now. We launched last year here at the TechEd, the version 1. And we are very proud that this year we are able to launch what we call a version 2. Technically, it's called 2.3. It's just out 2 weeks now. It's GA available, and it's ready for prime time that you can get it started. And this is the version I will talk about today. But why is that so important in the context of this intelligent enterprise? And you might have seen that picture also from Bernd in the keynote, that the intelligent enterprise essentially consists out of 3 parts. So the one is what we call the intelligent suite, which is essentially the out-of-the-box integration of all our solutions, be it cloud, be it on premises, with the S4 at the core. And then the second part is the intelligent technology, which is, if you want to put it simple, a consistent usage of analytics and an augmentation with machine learning models in that processes. And if you go then one step below, it's quite obvious if you really want to do this, you need a solid data foundation. And this is where the Data Hub fits in. So the data foundation, data management foundation of the intelligent enterprise. And if you put it in simple words, you can say you combine the HANA platform with all the data assets that are outside, that are also externally, and you need one holistic orchestration and metadata management solution across your enterprise. So essentially, it's the combination of HANA and Data Hub, which forms the data management foundation of the intelligent enterprise. And sometimes we refer this combination to as HANA Data Management Suite, if you might have heard that term as well. Okay, what is Data Hub? What can you do with this SAP Data Hub? And I think this one picture brings it pretty much to the point. You see it in the middle, and in the middle does not mean we now request you to replicate all your existing data to another silo. We call it Data Hub. This is not what we are doing. It's rather that we are orchestrating the different data that resides in the different silos in a harmonized and unified fashion. So think of it as a data orchestration solution that offers metadata management capabilities on top that can orchestrate and use existing integration and data ingestion solutions, that offers you the possibility to define really data flows, and I come to that in a second in more detail, across your landscape. And if you have such a solution that has the main purpose of orchestration and bringing the things together and augmenting and creating additional value, it obviously lives with the set of connectivities that I can have and what I can reuse. And you see, if you walk around there, there's a lot of stuff that we offer out of the box. So it starts with the connectivities to the typical non-SAP sources, to the streaming providers. It goes with all the classical connections that you know from the existing tools that we all included there out of the box. It even goes further. If you have third-party connectivity, we leverage the things that are available via cloud platform for third-party connectivity. And then obviously we integrate all our existing solutions from SAP, which is then the process integration, which is existing data services, which is BW process chains. And for all our cloud solutions, what we did is that we implement one harmonized, we call data API. So that means every solution implements a harmonized API, which allows us to do data replication, initial load, delta, metadata, etc., so that we can just very easily combine this in the Data Hub. So that's essentially what that is. And what I would like to do now is to really show you a demo that we put together just recently that goes across the different scenarios. The case behind that is that you have timesheet data that you have in a field glass system, and then you want to get these timesheet data, you want to do some aggregation on that, you want to leverage and combine it with an existing query or process chain in BW, then you want to make it available for recording, and you also want to store it on a data lake for further processing. You have a need to do some data masking, so all these things. And if you follow the demo now, really think about that visually as a data flow. So what really do I want to do first? So where do I connect? Where do I get started? What do I do then? What do I do in parallel? Where can I reuse what I already did? So think this visually, and this is then the principle on how you design these data workflows. And I think it will get very clear if we go to the use case that I prepared for you. So this is the entry page of the Data Hub that you just saw, and as I said, there are different connectivity options, so that's an overview over the existing options. And I just want to go you through, if you would be in the role of a developer of such a pipeline, what does that very concretely mean? So you see in that case, there's no field glass connection. So what you do is you go to the central connection management system, and then you create a connection to the field glass system. You say, okay, I create a new connection. In that case, I use our well-defined Cloud Data API. I have to give the access data of the system. This is then stored once as part of the connection management. You can see connection is there and it's checked. And this is important to understand. You do this only once. So if you have done that centrally in the SAP Data Hub connection management, you can now reuse that when you build your data pipelines. Okay, so let's build the data pipelines. So we switch to the modeling environment. This is in the Data Hub where you really do the pipeline modeling. And as you can see, we have a big variety of operators that we have there that offer different capabilities. We have over 200 out of the box so that you can plug and play things very easily together. What we now want to do is just create a new data flow across the system. So first of all, we create a new pipeline. You say, okay, create a new pipeline. Starting point is that you read from the field glass. We have a representation of a graph that connects then to the field class system that you just connected. So if you have that, you read data out, you leverage the existing connection. See, it's just a pick on the drop down, then you have it. And here you can even have some parameters, like I want to have a page size of 500 when I put this in. And you can define what semantically you want to get out, so not what individual table. In that case, I'm interested in timesheet data. So this is also one important thing to know. With this API, it's not that we just stupidly replicate data on table level, but we offer, with the support of all the applications, a higher semantic level. So you talk about the semantics of a timesheet data that you have there. Okay, you just do it. You selected the connection, you can do some filtering if you want, okay. So what is next? Then you have the data. Then you do for debugging, you can just connect a terminal. This is completely fine. And sometimes you just have, if you have the data, you're not completely satisfied if you want to store that out with a format. So you can just add some logic. In that case, you decided you add logic by using Python scripting. Python is very popular, very easy to learn, so you do that. So you just enter a Python operator. You have to configure the input and the output, and essentially you put in their Python code. So just plain Python code that you use to do some logic for the data formatting that you received. Okay, then you have that. You say, okay, that's format data, connect it to the data that you get out of the field class, and here you see a very nice thing that you also can semantically group it. So this semantically is how to load data from field class. What's next? So now I have the data available. Then a typical question is, okay, it's timesheet data, so it's sensitive, there is personal data. What do I do with that? What we offer in Data Hub out of the box is operators for data masking, data cleansing, and data quality. In that case, it's just a data mask operator. So what you do, use the data mask operator. Then you have some properties that you can put in there. You say what you want to mask, how you want to do it, so a kind of a configuration. And then you just have it, and then you just connect it out. You do some pre-processing steps. Again, here in the example, you add some Python logic. You do some mapping that you're creating, that the ports are available. And at the end, if the ports are mapping, so if input matches output, you just put the things together. Okay. So back to the graph. This is post-processing, and now we just connect the data that gets out, where we did already some processing, and put it in. If you like, and that's typical for a development-like scenario, before you set it productive, you can just attach it to an operator that puts it to a monitoring, which makes it then easy for you just to have some monitoring. And in that case, what we would like to do is, we now have the timesheet data, we have prepared it, then we take the prepared data, then we mask it, and now we want to store that masked data for further reuse just on the persistency, that we can reuse it for different purposes. So we just put it to a persistent that is offered out of the box in Data Hub based on our Vora tables, and then you just put it there. So you do this, just choose an existing connection, put your logic in, say you want to use that as a storage, and then you just group it again, and then give it some parameters in the configuration. Say it's an upsert, so always updates are inserted, and then you group it, and that time is the post-processing and ingestion into Vora. Then you connect the dots, one for the data flow, one direct for the metadata flow, so only for the data flow you need the masking, and then at the end you are ready and say, okay, if that's done, that's terminated. What you did there, you created really the flow, getting data, timesheet data out of field class, then do a pre-processing, then do a data masking, and then writing that to a storage, and then you can do further things. So that's kind of one building block of your whole scenario. What you then do, you can save this, and then you just get it started. Okay, and now we go to the field class system and just do some changes. So we do additional timesheet recording. So that's a typical login standard field class system. In the field class system, you go to the timesheet. In the timesheet, you enter just your working days. In that case, I think we enter it on Monday and Wednesday or Thursday. So the hours that your contingent workforce has reported. And if the user has reported it then, so the user does not even realize what happens, then from the Data Hub, we can start the pipeline. The pipeline is then connecting to the field class and just fetching out the data in the chunks that you define. So you can say how often do you want to have it, you can schedule that. In that case, we just put the data out in chunks of 500. And with the debugging UI, you can easily see during the development process what comes out. Here you see that the records are just retrieved in chunks of 500. This is as you like, you can do it. Okay, and now as a result, we have the data, and this is not a nice format. Now you want to put it in a bigger context and reuse what you just have done. No, I forgot that this is a quick review of the data that you stored, just to proof point also the masking that you see there, so that essentially you have all the data available and you see it's just masked data. So that means if someone else uses now that data assets for other purposes, you store it once and it's already masked and you don't have to worry about privacy concerns as you go. And then it says the billable hours and the masking as I just outlined. Okay, then we go back and now we create another workflow where we reuse what we already did. So in that case, a typical workflow that has a trigger. The trigger can be that you either call it or you say it's regularly executed. And what you now do is you just say reuse an existing pipeline. So you just put in the name of the pipeline we just created and now want to use it for a different use case. So just the name of load the timesheet data from field class in that case. And under the hood, if you double click, it's exactly the same pipeline that you had before. So what do we now want to do? Then we have the data available. What we now want to do, we know that there is existing process chain in BW, and this process chain takes the data and aggregates it by company. So how many people, hours in total have been recorded. And in BW, that's already logic that's available. And now we jump to the BW system, take a look at this process chain in the BW system. In that case, it's already named field class timesheet. And this is now in the BW system. You see what it does. Essentially, it executes a data transfer process, so a native artifact that you have in BW, and stores the aggregated results as part of a native data store object in HANA, which you can then use, for example, for reporting. You don't have to remodel that in Data Hub, you just reuse it. So you know now what is the name of the process chain. It exactly does what you expect. So we switch back to the modeling environment, then you say, okay, now include the BW process chain. BW system is already connected in the central connection management. So now I just want to trigger the process chain that you just saw. You just choose it, choose the BW connection, and then you get a value help where you can then put in or directly type in with some type ahead capabilities one of the existing BW process chains. And the last step that we do here is that we then get the aggregated data of BW, and we want to get it out of BW. So now it's stored on a data store object. So how do you get data out of BW? Again, you reuse what is existing. In that case, you reuse an existing query. So you just, within the Data Hub, browse the BW of the queries. You just select a query that is closest to what you want to do to get the aggregated data out. And in that case, you don't even need all the dimensions and key figures in BW. So you just select the subset. So you do a kind of filtering on the BW query data. You are free to rename it to the purposes that you have. And again, not only a reuse of a BW process chain, but also a reuse of an existing BW query. So you don't have to redo all the aggregation logic that you already have in BW modeled a second time. And again, here we put the result out, store it in the same data storage where we stored the masked data before. I think then we just have to add a terminate, and then we are done. Okay, again, now on a higher level, you leveraged other artifacts that are available, integrated what you before defined, and now it all comes together in a very nice end-to-end scenario. So now you run it, and then you really see how the different parts are then evoked stepwise. So the first step is, as I said, it starts the pipeline that you built before. So what you do is now, step one, you load and mask the timesheet data, field class, and put it to a storage where you can reuse it. Okay, you see this is pending. Now it's put up to action. and then it's running, and then the next thing happened. Now you trigger a BW process chain that you just saw that helps you to just store the data to a native BW object. Then you reuse an existing BW query and put it again back to a file storage that you have there on Vora. Again, here's then a little tool where you can then have an overview. And to close the demonstration, as you then have access via a remote source to everything that is stored in Vora or HANA via virtual access, you here see that you have the aggregated data by the different suppliers and then aggregated up the amount of work that has been recorded. So just an easy combination on things that are already available in your environment, and one consistent orchestrated environment in the Data Hub. And obviously you can then use, if you want more beautiful visualization, use the SAP Analytics Cloud that connects easily to the storages in Data Hub remotely, or you replicate, depends on your use case, and then you have all the things together as you go. So that was a very quick run through with a concrete scenario that shows you that on the one hand side, in the intelligent enterprise, what we are doing is harmonized integration on the application level. And then we can leverage that in the Data Hub and just build some logic, do data masking, make it available for others, reuse existing BW artifacts, etc. So that gives you a feeling what then orchestration really means. So you see that there's additional value in the Data Hub because these things you do not have today that you can use, but you are not enforced to rebuild all our existing or your existing assets. You just reuse and integrate that and bring that together. And we think that in that combination, Data Hub complementing then HANA is really a cool stuff. And what I would like to ask you is that you see it already can help you now to solve very, very concrete problems that you have. It can automate things. It reduces complexity because you have one harmonized view across your landscape. Okay, it's part of our strategy, which is always nice that you can be sure that it's still existing in 5 years from now. I think the openness is important, that you not only have a consistent picture within the SAP world, but can very easily also integrate external things. And as it's quite a fresh solution, it uses state-of-the-art technology that is a de facto standard in all big mega cloud vendors, which is technically under the hood, using Kubernetes and container-based infrastructures for the whole solution and for the data processing. So if you have enough appetite now, I would ask you, maybe you start the project, start small, but start it now, and then hopefully you are successful. Thanks for your attention.